There's space in it for memories and things. Loud in the
Perfect.
skies, green dragonflies 1,000 miles away. If it
Justified by saying that it's happened elsewhere in the country, further claiming that the unprecedented magnitude of violence against women in communal and sectarian conflicts is what needs to be emphasized. He in fact challenged, in as many words, those presenting arguments to propose constructive suggestions for the Manipur case, dismissing it rather by comparing it to occurrences in other regions like Bengal. Today we ask thereby, why is this critical aspect missing in all the arguments being presented inside and outside the parliament? Government calls the India delegation that set off to Manipur on a 2-day visit a political picnic. And even as the centre claims that the opposition is the one being unreasonable, the Prime Minister too hasn't shown any better by relenting and speaking about Manipur. Similarly, the opposition says the matter is grave, but they aren't ready for it to get a national platform that's relayed to the people of the country who need to hear about what's happening in Manipur through the highest seat of democracy, that is the Parliament of the country.
आज आपने राज्यसभा में देखा है कि जब बार बार अब तक ये कहा जाता था कि सरकार डिबेट करने के लिए, चर्चा करने के लिए तैयार नहीं है, आज सुबह बिजनेस में लिस्ट भी हुआ सप्लीमेंट्री में, और उस लिस्टिंग में 1/6 के तहत मणिपुर के ऊपर चर्चा होगा।
पिछले 10 दिनों से हम विपक्ष से अनुरोध कर रहे हैं कि वो चर्चा में भाग लें। सदन के अंदर, सदन के बाहर व्यवहार है, उससे हम सबको बहुत चिंता है।
I've been asking for is a discussion under emergency rule. Emergency rule माने सब बिजनेस बंद करो, मणिपुर आगे डिस्कस करो। ये हमारा मांग था 20 जुलाई, from 20th of July. Today is 31st of July, still no discussion. It's a very serious issue. Why can't the Prime Minister come? We are all ready to discuss Manipur.
There's a human crisis. People are living in relief camps. There's not enough supplies in the relief camp. People are paying for each other's blood in the state of Manipur. So we need to urgently address that issue. And when the parliament is in session, we need to discuss that issue and address that issue. And neither the Prime Minister is ready to give a statement on that. Neither the ministers are ready to go and visit the people, those who are suffering there.
And as we begin this conversation, let's first bring in one of the members of the India delegation, Mr. Thol Tirumavalan, who's the founder of VCK and MP Lok Sabha, who's recently visited Manipur. Mr. Tirumavalan, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Now, you visited the trouble-torn state of Manipur as a member of the India delegation. What all did you see there?
Me and my party General Secretary D. Ravi Kumar, we both visited Manipur along with the delegation. 2 days we had spent in Manipur.
Yes.
29th we landed Impal. From airport itself we travelled by helicopter to Churachandpur. The Kuki team received us. They brought us to the relief camp, which is in the Churachandpur Arts and Science College campus. We met the people who suffered a lot because of the violence. They revealed what happened for the past 3 months. They are suffering from want of food and water, medicine, like that. We asked them whether government, state government is helping or not. They said public, common people are helping us. The voluntary organizations are helping us. But the union government and state government, both are not bothering about us.
Okay.
We are suffering lot in the relief camps. They replied.
Okay.
We met.
So essentially, sir, you are saying that the situation in Manipur is dire, and it is important that all of these things are brought to light, especially under a discussion in the Parliament. Now, today, if we take a look at Rajya Sabha, we do understand that the Leader of the House, Mr. Piyush Goyal, proposed that the discussion happen at 2 p.m. But the opposition did not want it to happen unless and until it is under 267. Why is that, sir?
So, in both the houses, they are not ready to allow this issue to discuss on 276. Under the 276 only we can discuss elaborately, but they are allowing to discuss in short duration discussion. So, that is what we are not accepting this decision taken by the leader of the both houses.
All right, we had to come out of that conversation because of some important updates that we will have for you shortly. But remember, what we are learning through a series of discussions as far as opposition members are concerned are the fact that they are insistent upon a discussion only under Rule 267. And that is what the issue at hand is, that even though there was a proposed discussion by the Leader of the House, especially in the Rajya Sabha by Mr. Piyush Goyal, that was not allowed considering the opposition was only wanting it under 267 as far as the Lok Sabha is concerned. Even after the Rajya Sabha chairperson, Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar, in fact, had a deliberation discussion with the Leader of Opposition, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, nothing really did to go ahead and avoid that stalemate. And what ended up was that the Rajya Sabha had to be adjourned for the day, like the lower house of the Parliament. Let me actually take this across to my guest who is joining me on the broadcast, Mr. Tosif Rahman, who is the spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress. Is with us. Also with us is Guru Prakash Paswan of the BJP. We'll also have a member of the Congress party join us very, very shortly. Let me actually take this across to you, Mr. Paswan. The opposition is talking about grave issues in Manipur that needs to see the light of day, at least in the seat of democracy, that's the Parliament. And they are accusing the centre of not having that discussion as of primary importance under 267. Why are you pressed upon it having as a short-term discussion under 176 as opposed to 267, sir?
A very warm good evening to you and my fellow panelists. We must need to understand that the opposition is delving into this diversionary tactic. Before the start of the monsoon session, all of us remember that when the Honorable Prime Minister addressed the media, he categorically said, "Hamare hriday mein krodh hai." Our hearts are filled with anger. Our hearts are filled with disgust. Number two, you said a discussion must be initiated on Manipur. The government agreed. It is the area under the jurisdiction of the Union Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah. He was personally monitoring the entire situation since day zero. He has welcomed the discussion. He has encouraged the discussion. Number three, you said you asked for a vote of no confidence motion. It was accepted by the Parliament.
Yes.
But of all the three occasions, the entire idea, the entire objective of the opposition party is to disrupt the parliamentary proceedings and waste the hard-earned money of our taxpayers. Almost 10 crores every day. We have to be very careful. The people of India are watching this technique of the opposition parties led by the Congress party. I don't want to do whataboutery, but all of us categorically remember that in 2011, 123 days Manipur was burning. Who was there to take care of it? I don't want to go into whataboutery, but in the last 9 years, the sort of transformation, the sort of phenomenal developmental intervention that Northeast has seen, did it ever see before? The former Prime Minister, Mr. Manmohan Singh, was in Rajya Sabha from Assam. How many times in his 10 years of Prime Ministership did he go to Northeast? Only once. Today we are seeing infrastructure development of consequence, airports, roads, rail, connectivity, institution building, everything has come up in the northeast in the last 9 years. And these people who are shedding crocodile tears, let me make this very clear on your show tonight.
Okay.
They have no real intention. What did they do? The Union Minister of State for Home Affairs, Mr. Nityanand Rai, was there on the station for 28 days. Constantly, Honorable Prime Minister, Union Minister of Home Affairs, they're closely monitoring the situation. More than 6,000 FIRs have been filed. More than 6 rounds of dialogue has happened between the two groups. What else do you want? I want to urge from your show tonight, please don't make it a political issue. Please don't give it a political color. I sincerely urge you from the bottommost core of my heart.
Okay. Since you say that, Mr. Paswan, let me actually first introduce the other members on the panel. Sujata Paul of the Congress Party is also with us on the broadcast, and Arun Anand, who's a consulting editor, First Post, has also joined us this evening. But let me actually take this across to Mr. Rahman of the Trinamool Congress. Mr. Rahman, there was a special delegate. In fact, there was a provision in the West Bengal Assembly, a proposal that was sent out by the Chief Minister of the state, which actually had seen the BJP walk out of the West Bengal Assembly on this issue, on Manipur. While on the one hand, you have the BJP spokesperson claiming that there is ample discussion, deliberation, also on-ground work that's been done when it comes to the situation in Manipur. What we are seeing when it is about certain states vis-a-vis Bengal or Rajasthan, as they've been claiming, they do not want to discuss the Manipur situation unless and until there's also a discussion on crime against women in the states like West Bengal. Why am I bringing this up is because, like I said at the beginning of the show, the Chief Justice of the country today said that while these important issues are also there that need discussion, comparing it to what has happened in Manipur isn't right at all. How do you see this move by the opposition vis-a-vis that statement, sir? Mr. Rahman.
Good evening to everyone. Ma'am, absolutely what you are saying, it's absolutely correct, and I do understand your stand because you've been always attacked by the opposition that what about Rajasthan, what about Bengal, what about Chhattisgarh. But the only phrase in Hindi we call ab pachta kar kya fayda jab chudiyan chug gayi khet. You know, BJP or the central government was never serious and still not serious with Manipur issues. If you talk to them about Manipur, they will come with Bengal, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan. And when they speak about that you have to speak above politics when it's regarding Manipur, then I don't understand where they stand. You know, I've been hearing that this is nothing new in Manipur. Earlier also it used to shut down for many days, according to Anurag Thakur, he said. But the question is, when we talk about Modi government, they talk about a strong governance in India. Now, if it's that case, this Manipur incident shouldn't be happening. Like, if Congress failed to control Manipur, today Congress is not there in Manipur. It is as simple as that. But in 2017, the Modi government promised a peace talk between the two communities. With the suspension of operation will run smoothly and everything will go on according to database given by Bhajpa. Now my question is, why the suspension of operation is withdrawn in today's date? It shouldn't be withdrawn. And why Narendra Modi is not willing to talk? I mean, today the no confidence motion happened, and according to the parampara of parliament, the date will be given. Narendra Modi might come. Again, we are not sure whether he will come and address or not. But the thing is that in 2014, the main objective given to all the people in India was अब की मोदी सरकार को जिताना है, उनको दिल्ली लेकर जाना है, पार्लियामेंट लेकर जाना है, उनको चौकीदार उनसे ही करवाना है. Because in parliament also Modi सरकार said that मैं आपका चौकीदार हूँ. So why we would like to hear from Amit Shah, Piyush Goyal, Anurag Thakur or Smriti Irani? Narendra Modi is our Prime Minister. He belongs to Manipur as well. So he's being a great orator. He's the Prime Minister. He heads the Council of the State. He has the Council Ministers as well. So why it is unfair from our side that we are demanding too much to the Prime Minister coming inside the Parliament and speak and give a whole
Mr.
narrative
Rahman, what is unfair is the opposition is also hell-bent on this one aspect, that is the Prime Minister needs to speak. On the other hand, your delegation goes to Manipur. They talk about the situation that is dire in the state, and yet there is no conversation that has been initiated, at least right now. What has happened today, and BJP of course will take the higher ground here, is that the leader of the house in the Rajya Sabha did insist on a conversation. Mr. Piyush Goyal said, let's have a discussion at 2 p.m. However, what happened at 2 p.m. is that the Rajya Sabha had to be adjourned. And this after the Rajya Sabha chairperson,
Ma'am, why?
Mr. Dhankar, really going ahead and speaking to the leader of opposition, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, trying to understand that let the conversation really begin and at least go somewhere. Despite all of those deliberations, what has been played out on the 9 days straight, I believe 10th day today, is what has been happening for the rest of the 9 days. Sujata Paul, your response on this?
Ma'am,
First of all, the BJP will talk about this and that. And let me tell you that this is what L cube is all about. That means lowest level, going to the lowest level. Now, when you're talking about the Honorable Supreme Court of India making certain statements today, what does it show? That what we are saying is absolutely correct. They are the ones who are doing the whataboutery. They are talking about Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan. Of course, have a debate on that. Who's stopping you? Get a proposition. Why are you not moving a motion? But the fact is that saying that Pradhan Mantri ko krodh hai, to kuch kar bhi lete. Then you say that, oh, it comes under the Home Minister. I mean, like, is something wrong with these BJP people? If you talk about what they were saying earlier, they said it is a state matter, law and order comes under the state, absolutely. Then why was Article 355 being imposed, though there was never a notification about that? Now, when there is a no confidence motion being moved in the Lok Sabha, can any business be done in any of the two houses? You tell me. That means, first of all, you will clear whether there is confidence in this government or not. How can you have other businesses going on? As simple as that. So when we are talking about the Prime Minister speaking in the Lok Sabha, you tell me who is the head of the Council of Ministers? Who is the leader of the Lok Sabha? Prime Minister. But he is trying to get a protective cover from his ministers and his BJP spokespersons. They should be ashamed of themselves when they say that he made 51 visits to the state and Dr. Manmohan Singh made none. Tell these people of the BJP to go check the National Informatics Center website and you will find how many times Dr. Manmohan Singh visited. Okay. And I'll give you just two instances. Absolutely. When in 2004, he visited Manipur and Assam for 3 days. 3 days. In 2011, when there was an economic blockade by the United Naga Council in Manipur, he issued a statement during his state visit on December 3, 2011. So these are liars. Third instance also, July 2012. 2 weeks after clashes broke out at Kokrajhar, again, this is from the National Informatics Center. He appealed for peace and he went there and next month he addressed the Rajya Sabha. Now, what is happening today is that nobody wants to talk about peace and the Prime Minister has not used the word peace even once, Kriya, which is really concerning. He might have made 51 visits. And I'll tell you, I was in Nagaland for 1.5 months in January, February. And I saw that every week there were 2 ministers coming to various states of the Northeast and they were talking about how every week 2 ministers are coming. Where are those ministers now? Why are they not going there? Why is it that the Home Minister went at the end of May and after that he hasn't been there? Why is it that nobody is even talking about Balteji, who was given electric shocks, was in a hospital in Delhi for 2 months and not a single person from this government went to meet him. Only leaders of Manipur went to meet him. Why is it that they are talking about women in isolation in Manipur? There were men also. David Theek's head was severed from his body and stuck on a fence. This is not something that is happening in other states. You have a discussion on other states. Move a motion. But first of all, let's talk about Manipur because Manipur is burning and at least listen to the Chief Justice of India because what he is saying is from where we should take this on.
Okay. Arun, I need your word here, especially vis-a-vis the statement that has come from the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of India really stating that while you speak about Manipur, you cannot be having instances like Bengal or Rajasthan to go ahead and probably, interject with the situation in Manipur because that's an important situation that needs to be discussed. While we talk about that, once again, let me ask my question. I will come to you, Tosif. While we talk about that, how do you read the statement that the Prime Minister made on day one outside the Parliament?
See, I was listening to the debate in this show also, and I think the overall what has happened is there are three aspects of this problem. One is that yes, there is the situation is very serious in Manipur, and all the political parties are deeply concerned about it.
Yes.
The second thing is that a debate has to happen in the parliament, and no confidence motion has been moved. But if you look at the parliamentary traditions of Indian Parliament, the benchmark was set up by the first no confidence motion, which was moved in 1963. There was a 4-day debate which happened, and Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, India was badly defeated in 1962 war. So when in 1963 the first no confidence motion was moved, and there was almost a similar situation. The Congress, out of 494 Lok Sabha seats, Congress had 371 Lok Sabha seats. And the opposition didn't had the numbers. The opposition also knew that they're going to get defeated, but still they wanted to raise some points. But the similarity ends there. There was no slogan shouting. There was no protest wearing the black clothes. There were no personal attacks on the Prime Minister. In fact, if you look at those debates, these debates are one of the highest quality debates. Acharya J.V. Kriplani had led the opposition attack, and though there was some personal attack on Acharya J.V. Kriplani by some Congress members, but overall still there was some minor interjection. So I think the overall, if you look at the parliamentary traditions, so the Prime Minister probably would speak at the end of the debate, and that has been the parliamentary tradition, that whenever you move a no confidence motion, you cannot compel the Prime Minister basically to come and give the statement. He has already given a statement about this. Okay. And I think the larger issue is that overall the level of the parliamentary debate has gone down significantly, and parliamentary debates are not tools to score brownie electoral points. Okay. Parliamentary debates are tools to improve governance, in which opposition has to play a very constructive role. I'm not saying whether opposition is playing a constructive role or not, but if I look at the debates which have happened earlier in the parliament in 1960s or even in 1970s, or even up to when Mr. Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, because I would end my talk by saying, my point by saying, you have to recall what Vajpayee ji said in 1996, that, sarkarein aayingi, sarkarein jayenge, partiyan banengi, partiyan bigड़ेंगी, लेकिन देश रहना चाहिए और हमारा लोकतंत्र में रहना चाहिए. So I think
you are essentially saying that no confidence motion to be used as a tool as bringing the Prime Minister to the mat is something which is unreasonable. It has never been done as far as the tradition and convention of the Parliament is. We will come back to this point. What we are doing is cutting into some breaking news, an important piece of information that I'd like to bring to our viewers' notice, that the Opposition India Alliance MPs have now sought time of the President of the country on this very Manipur issue. In fact, MPs who have gone to Manipur and also the floor leaders of the India Alliance will in fact be meeting the President. At least there is a request for her time that has been sought to brief her about the situation in Manipur. So right now, no conversation or discussion happening in the Parliament, but a request to the President of the country to actually hear the India Alliance over the situation in Manipur. My colleague Pallavi has got us all of those details. Pallavi, this is an important development. While the opposition is stuck with a demand that the Prime Minister needs to speak about the issue inside the Parliament, they've also now reached out to the President of the country.
That's right. So what they're going to want to tell the President is that they have met up with the Governor, they gave a memorandum to the Governor, and also they saw the situation on the ground. So therefore, they think that at this point of time, President's rule must be imposed in the state because there's a complete breakdown of trust between the people of Manipur with the Chief Minister and the state administration. And therefore, it's a fit case for the dismissal of the government and therefore imposition of the President's rule. That's exactly the kind of memorandum which they gave to the Governor. The similar one they want to give to the President. What we are being now told is that no time has been given to them yet, but they're trying for the earliest possible appointment with the President of India. If they can get it tomorrow, then at least representatives of all the 21 who went there are expected to go to Rashtrapati Bhavan.
All right, Pallavi, thank you so much for that piece of information. An important one that we are breaking, that the Opposition India Alliance delegation is going to be meeting with the President. At least they have sought for her time. We are getting another piece of breaking news, and this is ahead of the battle for 2024. According to top sources, we are given to understand that the centre has now decided to address the opposition, the alliance, as UPA instead of India. They are not acknowledging the acronym I.N.D.I.A that the opposition has now decided to stand by. They are going to be addressing the opposition as UPA. My colleague Payal has all the details. Payal, this essentially has laid down two aspects. One, which the opposition claims that the centre is being rattled by the name I.N.D.I.A. The other is that they are not ready to acknowledge this entire association of the opposition parties who have come together in the name of general elections 2024.
Well, there are two things to look into this. If you remember, then right from Amit Shah to Union Minister for Defence Rajnath Singh, all of these leaders had hit out at the opposition parties and said that just by putting a name doesn't change your characteristic, doesn't change your character. So that is why the government has taken a conscious call that the BJP from now onwards will still continue to call them UPA no matter what the opposition front calls itself. And that is very evident. If you remember, just a short while ago, when the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman was holding a briefing, she addressed the opposition flank as UPA at least 3 times in that briefing as well. So that's the strategy of the government. Having said that, as far as the opposition unity is concerned, the government has been of the concerted view that this opposition unity will fall flat on its face in some time from now, because there are various parties within the ranks who will not be willing to concede space to each other as far as the elections to the states or to the centre are concerned as well. So that is something which they say it's a farce. It's just a matter of time before that farce comes out and the opposition unity becomes, what people expect it to be. It's going to be a non-starter. That's what has been decided. But yes, the ball has been set rolling, and that's why when Nirmala Sitharaman today held a press briefing after the Parliament got adjourned because of the ruckus that we saw in Rajya Sabha, at least on 3 occasions I remember she said UPA.
All right, Payal, thank you so much for that piece of information. So important aspect that we are given to understand that the centre has now decided to address the opposition alliance as UPA instead of the acronym that they now decide to go by, that is I.N.D.I.A. On that note, we are slipping into a very, very short break. But up next, we are going into another debate, and that concerns the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, who is now waded into the Gyanvapi controversy. And he goes on to say that the Muslim side must fix what he terms as a historical mistake. Let's discuss that on the other side.
Also part of this intel note. Traders working as Chinese spies in the northeast region. This is also what the intel note is revealing. Chinese markings found on arms that have been recovered so far as well, showing the nefarious plan as far as China and Pakistan is concerned. Now, why is China and Pakistan trying to take an undue advantage of what is happening in Manipur? How are they planning to target Manipur and also using Manipur? Let's break down those details as well. There is connectivity to other southern South Asian countries as well. So if they're able to enter through what's happening in Manipur, then they get access to other areas as well. The second is several infra and rail development projects, so they get access to that as well. The third is there is an aim to create another Kashmir-like situation. This is something that we've spoken time and again. The peace and normalcy in Kashmir has of course ruffled a lot of feathers across the border. The third is aim to create another Kashmir-like situation, as I pointed out, and that is why they want to target Manipur today and take an undue advantage of the unrest that still continues. Let's also try and bring our colleague Anand also in the conversation to try and understand the modus operandi, what they aim to achieve, and more importantly, what are the other details that are now emerging from this intel note. Anand, as we pointed out to our viewers, this is not the first time that we're reporting stories, but what is it that China and Pakistan wants to do of the Myanmar situation as far as the nefarious plan is concerned?
Well, there is a history to this. It's also chronicled back till 1971 that the Chinese were interested in helping the Pakistanis with military planes and also with war chests at that time, so that they could seal off all of the northeastern part of our country and sever it away from India. So India would have ended at West Bengal at that point in time. And anything beyond that would be either with Pakistan or become East Pakistan. And thereafter, all the other northeastern regions will get into Chinese control. The other aspect one need to understand is that there is also the ethnic strife. There is a lot that's happening in Myanmar which is having a direct bearing on what is happening in Manipur. So because of the entire Chin state fights, which are civil war situation, the military junta losing control and the Chin state itself and the Chin National Army taking control, there are a lot of tribes who are also moving away. The last 2 years of civil war in Myanmar has led to a lot of the cookies who are now coming into the Indian part side, that is the Manipur area. They are inhabiting the hills. With them have come arms, with them have come drugs. So this entire increase in the acreage of poppy fields has also happened by about 2015 onwards. I was having a chat with Lieutenant General Abhay Krishna, and he's also served there. So he had some very interesting points to make, that we need to consider that there could be an interest for China and Pakistan to try and flush those routes, but that's an important trade route connect. Now, there is also the possibility that India is also invested there, because we are looking at the Moreh project. Via Moreh, we are looking at the transnational project where we are planning to connect India, Manipur, India, Myanmar and then Thailand. So billions of dollars which are now invested in that project. So that gets affected. This trade route is also important for the Chinese who get access towards Chittagong. But more importantly, there could be other entities too. There could be Western entities who are actually using using this market and consuming the poppy that's being raised here to fuel their pharmaceutical industry there. So that is another dynamic which is there. So all of this means that there are vested entities who want that area to be in a flux. China for long has nurtured this because it's part of its overall Belt and Road project, the OBOR project. It wants to dominate. It claims Arunachal Pradesh. We know the instance that they wanted to give staple visa to our athletes. Because they want to take control of that entire region. There are other entities who believe that there are rich uranium, thorium deposits also in Manipur, Mizoram and Meghalaya. So they want that area to be under their control. And of course, what is happening in Myanmar between the military junta controlled by the Chinese. Who's funding the Chin state? What kind of weaponry is coming there? Yes, there are Chinese arms and ammunition here, but are there American weapons systems which are also there with some of the other parties who are part of that civil war? These dynamics make this whole thing in the flux very concerning. More importantly, is this just the beginning of a lot more of trouble that Northeast could witness?
That's exactly what I wanted to understand, Anna. There are two things here. One, of course, there is a larger pattern at play because they want the unrest because they want to take advantage of it. We've seen something similar play out in Kashmir. There's possibly something similar that's playing out. The second part is, what is the role of Nepal? Why are they using Nepal as the silent launch pad when they want to push either drugs or arms across the border?
See, Nepal as a nation finds itself sandwiched, right? It's sandwiched with Chinese occupied territory on the one hand and the Chinese influence of the PLA. On the other hand, you have India, who's always been a friend. Then they have also got porous borders with Sikkim and Bangladesh. So they have infiltration there. And then there is always this entire route, the Nepal route, being used by the Pakistanis because they find their entry via the POK, POJK regions, and then they come into Nepal. Or direct access from Pakistan into Nepal, which happens. So Nepal then becomes a hotbed. A lot of it, the Nepalese establishment itself does not know who's working where and what's happening, because there are huge, it's not about 5-10 kilometers of open porous borders. It's more than hundreds into thousands of kilometers, all the way from Uttarakhand, Uttarachal, all the way into Sikkim. That the borders are porous. So entry, egress and all of that becomes very easy for people to operate out of. And Nepal is also far-flung. A lot of areas are totally isolated, desolated areas. So there for people to pitch camp and to conduct their operations becomes very easy. You cannot blame the Nepalese government for it because the system can only handle that much. And all of the Northeast for a lot of time had been neglected. So people had a free run. It's only now that the connection is happening.
Welcome back. You're watching Viewpoint with me, Griha. Now, with the Gyanvapi Mosque complex row escalating by each passing day, the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister has gone on to make a suggestion, and it is primarily for the Muslim side. Yogi Adityanath is of the view that the Muslim petitioners should come forward with a proposal to fix what he has termed as a quote-unquote historical blunder. Remember, these remarks come in days after the Allahabad High Court reserved its verdict till August 3rd on a plea against a district court order directing the Archaeological Survey of India to conduct a survey to determine if the Gyanvapi Mosque in Varanasi was built on a temple. This, although, is the first time Yogi Adityanath has spoken as the state's chief minister. He had, however, made a rather controversial comment as the BJP MP from Gorakhpur back in 2015 on Gyanvapi, when he had said that he will install idols of Gauri Ganesh in every mosque if given a chance. This time around, it was the office of the chief minister holding that aggression back rather. However, he does go on to make a comment on a matter that's sub judice. And that's the claim that the Muslim side is latching on to. The fact is that the Gyanvapi Mosque in Varanasi has been at the center of a protracted dispute involving its historical origins and the rights of worship, and that cannot be kept aside by sweeping statements like the one that's been made today. Shouldn't maintenance of peace and communal harmony be paramount, and preserving that be of utmost importance for the state chief? Let's analyze that this evening.
अगर हम उसको मस्जिद कहेंगे तो फिर विवाद होगा। मुझे लगता है कि भगवान ने जिसको दृष्टि दी है वो देखे ना, त्रिशूल मस्जिद के अंदर क्या कर रहा है, हमने तो नहीं रखे ना। ज्योतिर्लिंग हैं, देव प्रतिमाएं हैं, पूरी दीवारें चिल्ला चिल्ला के क्या कह रही हैं। और मुझे लगता है कि ये प्रस्ताव मुस्लिम समाज की तरफ से आना चाहिए कि साहब ऐतिहासिक गलती हुई है और उस गलती के लिए हम चाहते हैं समाधान।
योगी आदित्यनाथ जी ने बहुत ही सच्ची और सही बात कही है, और इस सही बात कहने के लिए बड़ा जज्बा चाहिए।
जो पूरा खसरा नंबर 9130 है वो हमारे हिंदू मंदिर का परिसर है। ऐतिहासिक गलती हुई है अंजुमन इंतजामिया से तो वो मान लें।
आप मुख्यमंत्री है, कानून को फॉलो करिए। आप कानून को फॉलो नहीं करना चाह रहे, वो मुसलमानों पर प्रेशर डालना चाह रहे, दबाव डालना चाह रहे हैं।
मुसलमानों से कोई गलती नहीं हुई, उसको इन्होंने जबरदस्ती उसको हिंदू मंदिर कहना शुरू कर दिया।
Let me now open this up to my guests who are joining me this evening. Sharat Trivedi of the Uttar Pradesh BJP is with us on the broadcast. Also with us is AIMIM leader Danish Qureshi, and Deshratam Nigam, who is an advocate and a political analyst, is also with us. And also with us is Shahid Ali, who is the president of United Muslims Front. Now, let me actually begin with you, Mr. Trivedi. The claim that has been made by the Muslim petitioners is that since the matter is sub judice, why did the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister go ahead and speak about it, and that too just claim or probably go ahead and talk to the Muslim petitioners and make it a one-sided claim?
No, whatever the Chief Minister said has nothing to do with either the court judgment or the court proceedings. What he has said that anybody who can see the basic structure of the place is of a temple, and all the Hindu deities are there. Bhagwan Krishna, Bhagwan Shiv is there, Parvati is there, Nandi is there, Trishul is there, swastik is there, Om is written there. So all these symbols have nothing to do with Islam. It's a totally temple premises, and we have got a confessional statement of the most secular person who was ever born, Aurangzeb himself. He had issued a fatwa in 1669 that all temples and schools of all the heretics or the kafirs have to be destroyed, and all their religious practices have to be crushed. And on 2nd September 1669, the report was brought to his court that the temple has already been destroyed. So it's absolutely clear, and what Yogi ji has said is that the initiative should come from the Muslims. What he has said that this matter should be solved out of court, as Supreme Court itself said in the Ram Mandir issue, that they give about 4 years time for both the parties to sit around, discuss, decide, and amicably the matter should be solved. There's nothing wrong with it.
Mr. Trivedi, you just mentioned the Aurangzeb aspect. Isn't it selective reading of history? While Aurangzeb did go ahead and probably demolish a lot of Hindu structures to build mosques, as is being claimed through a series of these petitions also, there were also aspects of him building Hindu temples in his regime. What about that?
I am a history student. There is not a single incident in which Aurangzeb had rebuilt a structure at all. This is all fake narrative that has been brought. If any evidence, I have not seen it, and let them come out with it. There's not a single instance in which a temple was reconstructed by him. In fact, 400 soldiers were sent to Ujjain to destroy every temple there. And Amber, which was a friend of the Mughals, they destroyed the temples, 175 temples in Amber. So this has been a
constructed
universal
and
thing from
reconstructed. Don't you think there is a
Abbott.
slight difference with the nitpicking that you're doing? But let me actually bring in Mr. Danish Qureshi here. Mr. Qureshi, are you satisfied with the argument that the BJP is made on the statements that have now come by the way of the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister speaking about how the Muslim side needs to send out a proposal and just stay back?
I think two things are very clear. Today, we are talking about the spokesperson of BJP is a different thing, and the state chief minister of the state is a different thing. The statement of Mr. Yogi Adityanath is that कि भाई उन्होंने जो शब्दों का प्रयोग किया है कि अगर इस तरीके का मामला होगा तो ये और विवाद बढ़ेगा. This is very problematic. चीफ मिनिस्टर को इस तरीके की भाषा का जो प्रयोग है, जो आप देखिए कि कहीं ना कहीं व्यक्तिगत तौर पे मुझे ये लग रहा है कि क्यों आप ऐसी भाषा का प्रयोग कर रहे हैं. ही इज द चीफ मिनिस्टर ऑफ द स्टेट ऑफ उत्तर प्रदेश एंड जब दो पक्ष जब कानूनी एतबार से लड़ाई कर रहे हैं, ऐसी परिस्थिति में आप कानूनी एतबार से जब पूरा मामला चल रहा है और दोनों पक्षों का रिलीजियस मामला है, देखिए कोई प्रॉपर्टी का रिलेटेड मसला नहीं है कि आपका प्रॉपर्टी ले लिया मेरा ले लिया, ये रिलीजियस मामला है. ऐसे मौके पे जब मामला कोर्ट के अधीन है, उस वक्त पे अगर मुख्यमंत्री के तौर पर योगी आदित्यनाथ का स्टेटमेंट है तो मुझे लगता है कि ये डेमोक्रेसी के ऊपर इस तरीके का सवालिया निशान लगा रहे हैं योगी आदित्यनाथ जी.
Deshrata Nigam, the argument that also came to light was that the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh is speaking as the Chief Minister of Hindus only and not the Muslim petitioners, because he singled out the Muslim petitioners. And then there was also reference that was made to his 2015 speech where he was not the state Chief Minister, where he has said that if given a choice, he would go ahead and install Gauri and Ganesh images in every mosque. While that has been slightly diluted, why make such a statement at the time when the matter is still being looked at by the courts?
Priya, in fact, nobody can silence the voice of the stones. Even if there is any chief minister who does not want to speak on the subject, the stones will speak for themselves. And the chief minister has only reiterated what is there on the stones. And he is given the fact during Ram Mandir, when the matter was sub judice, both the sides made claims and counterclaims. I was quite involved in it. And therefore, to say that a matter is sub judice, nobody should speak on it, especially even a blind man can see the Hindu symbols and all shivlings and trishul out there. To say that one should not speak about it, no, he clearly said the initiative must come from Muslims to solve this and recognize there is a mistake. This is a kind of a battle between truth and untruth. Somebody do not want the truth to come out. The other side wants the truth to come out, and therefore scientific survey. And why should you have an objection to a scientific survey which is believable? And therefore, in fact, I would say Hindus have climbed down. Despite so many symbols and even a blind man can look into it, they're still saying, let us have a scientific survey and to establish all the points. Therefore, today, and under the Islamic law, it is well established today from Islamic records and otherwise also from Hindu and British records that it was a temple destroyed by Aurangzeb. And under the Islam, it is not a mosque. Please understand, clearly says you can't occupy forcibly some place, and that is what the Islamic scholars or your panelists try to hide. It just cannot be a mosque under the Islamic law. You can't grab it. It has to be a valid and legal, possession. That it is not. And demolition of that particular temple is clearly a historical mistake, which the community, especially not the entire community, few who are doing politics or the Intizamiya committee, management committee of the mosque, have to recognize this, that the historical mistake. And see, initially the Hindus were asking for 3 places.
Yeah.
Krishna Janmabhoomi, Kashi and Ram Mandir. And we were not saying anything else. And still, some of the people, their politicians, were hell-bent not to give those places, because it is same as taking away Makkah and Medina from them, from the Muslims. They do not realize how important these places are, especially established when they were taken over. Because I'm quite involved in the Krishna Janmabhoomi also and was also involved in Ram Janmabhoomi. So I know the historical facts. Even Kashi Vishwanath, there are historical facts. Nobody's denying, but everybody's saying Places of Worship Act. Forgetting that in the Places of Worship Act, an exception itself has been carved out for historical and ancient monuments.
which is not covered by Places of Worship Act. There is another act of 1958. So they forget about the selective reading of the act is also not permissible, even under the very same act of Places of Worship Act. To determine the nature of the place is not prohibited. Supreme Court has made it very clear. So let us first establish the truth, and then we can sit across the table. Nobody wants the truth to come out, despite the fact it is visible all around.
Okay. Shahid Ali, I'd need you to respond to these claims that have been made by Desh Ratan Nigam. Also, the fact that he talks about Places of Worship Act 1991, which clearly under Section 405 makes a sort of alienation when it is about the historical significance of a place that's been determined, as opposed to the 1947 Independence Day deadline, the cutoff. While we talk about that, we also need to bring to light this important aspect that the first petition against the Gyanvapi Mosque was also filed around the same time when the Places of Worship Act was in fact brought into place, that is 1991. So even that aspect will be going against whether this particular complex, this property comes under that Places of Worship Act or not.
I will go one by one.
Yes.
My learned friend has mentioned about that there is an act, ASI Act, and therefore invoking Section 4, this Places of Worship Act is not applicable into this. I request my learned friend and you people as well to read Section 16 of ASI Act 1958, which specifically says that the character of mosque or any religious place will not be changed. This is clearly mentioned that even if a property is taken over by ASI and that is basically a mosque or any other ibadatgah or a dargah, that character will not be changed. In the ASI Act 1958 this was mentioned, and particularly for these kind of mosques and these kind of things, then in 1991 another act had come. Out of the Babri Masjid was kept out of purview of that. When Babri Masjid was decided by Honorable Supreme Court, this act was also dealt with by Honorable Supreme Court, and Honorable Supreme Court has held that act as constitutional. That act still is in force. Once that act is in force, matter is subject for the Honorable Court. On 3rd, the statement that the verdict is about to come, and the constitutional post holder, Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, is making a statement, and that statement is absolutely in terms of threat कि साहब विवाद हो जाएगा अगर आप उसको मस्जिद कहोगे तो. So that is an interference that they are trying not only to browbeat the Muslims, the minority community of India, but also judiciary as well. This is absolutely bizarre. In what kind of democracy we are? So to whom they are threatening? This should not be in a democracy, in a country which is, देखिए, when जब Babri Masjid this verdict had come, any of the Muslims of India raised any question whether we like the verdict or not, but no one disputed, no one came forward to attack that verdict. So we still believe on the court procedure, on the law, matter is sub judice. Why these people are creating this kind of nuisance, this kind of this pressure? These are nothing but pressure mounting tactics.
Okay.
Interference everywhere. They are passing the judgment that yes, there is the Trishul, there is
Desh Ratan Nigam, and then I'll go to Mr. Trivedi.
Who has passed this order?
All right, he wants to make a point.
Who has decided this? The
Desh
matter
Ratan
is subjudiced.
See, let me tell you one thing. The AIMPA, Muslim Personal Law Board and the Work Board, despite the Ram Mandir, they have still said disputed the judgment, despite the fact it is not being implemented. Not secondly, one of the important ground which has been taken in the petition by the Intizamiya committee on the Muslim side, that if you allow this survey, there will be upheaval in the society. So who is threatening? Who's threatening the court process? So they are not going on legality. There will be law and order problem, peace and harmony. This is the threat coming from the Intizamiya committee and the Muslims. Secondly, when the two acts, presuming for the sake of argument, there are contradictory provisions in the two acts, then you have to see which one of the becomes a special act and which one becomes a general act. As here, the ancient monumental and historical sites becomes a special act vis-a-vis the ASI Act. Therefore, special acts will always prevail over the general act. This is the law of jurisprudence that we have today. So therefore, let us not get into nitty-gritties, and therefore it is very, very clear We have a court process that will continue. There is no doubt about it. The fact remains the Chief Minister has made a remark on the basis of the screaming voices of the walls and the symbols, which everybody, even Muslims, see it day in and day out
While I
coming
take
out.
that point that you're making, Deshratan Nigam, that's exactly what is being argued. That what is the point of making a statement right now when all of this is required for the court to decide? Right now, making that statement as being part of that office of the Chief Minister that Yogi Adityanath commands, then it is a constitutional position that he is holding, and then he's making a statement as the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, and that's why these allegations are coming to fore. However, that also needs to be brought into consideration. I'd want Mr. Trivedi to respond to this allegation that's been made by Shahid Ali. When you talk about what the Chief Minister has said, they are also saying that it's a suggestion that this is going to flare up communal tensions if the Chief Minister goes ahead and makes a statement like that. Having said that, this point that Deshratan Nigam was also making, that it was part of the petition by the Muslim side, that if at all their side is not respected or probably heard upon and the stay is not granted, then there is going to be a threat of similar issues that were claimed earlier.
I deeply appreciate the deep respect that my friends have got for the parliament and the judiciary, because earlier in Shabano case, they do not believe the judiciary, the respect went to the parliament. And in CA and RC, the respect went from parliament to judiciary. So it is a very selective appreciation of judiciary and respect to parliament. Now, what Yogi ji has said is something which any ordinary citizen can comment on the judgment of the Supreme Court or the High Court, or they can comment on what is right or what is wrong, what it should be or what it should not be. But here the trouble is the only thing, they are even against the survey. Forget about appreciating whether it is a mosque or a temple. They are against the survey because somewhere in the heart of hearts they know that it is a temple. Because if the reason why they are scared of the survey is that survey में बात सामने आ जाएगी कि सच क्या है, सच्चाई क्या है. We are saying let's have the survey. It could even be a mosque. What is the problem? ये लड़ाई तो मॉस्क और मस्जिद और मंदिर की है. हम तो कह रहे हैं हो सकता है मस्जिद भी हो. आपको सर्वे से क्या डर है? They are scared of survey because the truth is going to come out. Otherwise, why would I be scared of it?
ये जो सर्वे का मामला है, उसके लिए भी तो हाई कोर्ट की दलील का आप इंतजार करिए. ये भी तो क्लेम है ना. August 3rd is when the High Court is going to come up with their verdict on whether or not they are resuming the ASI survey or not. Why not respect the court? Why insist on the survey? Of course, we'll go by the court. That is what is being said.
I accept the court. Even in Afzal Guru's case, people said it was a judicial hanging. It was a judicial matter. So you can comment on the Supreme Court or High Court. We are not
let's not digress from what we are talking about. We cannot compare two cases. In this case, two absolutely different cases to make a point. I don't think that's the argument.
Small comment.
Yes, Mr. Deshratan Nigam. I'll go to Danish after that.
What Yogi ji has said is a kind of a mediation process, irrespective of the court. Let the initiative come from an acceptance. Then, when the truth is established, one can sit across the table and find out via media. This is the short and the crux of what Yogi ji has
absolutely.
said.
But you will agree that in 1998, the High Court only stayed this particular case and it was stayed for 22 years. It was because of a reason. If at all not communal harmony being disrupted, then what else?
See, the first is the truth has to be established. Yogi ji is capable of dealing with law and order and upheaval. We know that.
Okay. All right. I'm really sorry. I'll have to just interrupt the panel because we are now getting some breaking news on the broadcast. And this one's coming in from Haryana's New. As we are given to understand that several people have been injured in violent clashes that took place between two communities. A handful of Hindu leaders along with few journalists are also stuck inside a temple. And the premises of the temple was also attacked by a few people approximately half an hour ago. And since these people are stuck there. In fact, my colleague I.N.D.I.A is also there, who is live with us from that very troubled location. आनंद, सबसे पहले तो क्या जानकारी दे सकते हैं, अभी क्या हो रहा है वहां पे?
देखिए, इस वक्त हम मेवात नूह में मौजूद हैं और ये चौराहा है यहाँ पर की भारी पुलिस डिप्लॉयमेंट की गई है. कई जिलों की फोर्स को है यहाँ पर तैनात किया गया है. पुलिस लगातार जो है वो फ्लैग मार्च यहाँ पर कर रही है. कई गाड़ियों के जो शीशे हैं वो यहाँ पर पुलिस के तोड़े गए हैं और आप देख सकते हैं जगह जगह केवल यहाँ पर आपको पत्थर पड़े नजर आएंगे। ये जो रोड है यहाँ से लगातार स्थानीय लोगों ने, जो शरारती तत्व हैं, उन्होंने पुलिस पार्टी के ऊपर फायरिंग की और पुलिस ने उन्हें यहाँ पे खदेड़ा है। एक अफवाह फैलाई गई कि मोनू मानेसर यहाँ पर शोभा यात्रा मौजूद है, जुनैद हत्याकांड का जो आरोपी था, और उसके बाद जो स्थानीय लोग हैं वो उग्र हुए। एक आगे जाके, इस रोड के आगे जाके एक मंदिर है, वहां पर कुछ स्थानीय लोग जो हैं, कुछ हिंदू नेता हैं, कुछ मीडिया पर्सन हैं, वो वहां पर फंसे हुए हैं क्योंकि वहां पर एक खबरें आ रही थी कि वहां पर पहाड़ी के रास्ते से फायरिंग हो रही है, तो उन्हें रेस्क्यू कराने के लिए वहां पर भारी पुलिस फोर्स जो है वो पहुंची हुई है। ये रोड जो है आप देख सकते हैं, ये भी रिहायशी इलाका है और यहाँ भी बीच बीच में रह रहकर कुछ देर पहले तक, करीबन घंटा भर पहले यहाँ पर जमकर जो है पत्थरबाजी लोगों ने की है और पुलिस ने उन्हें यहाँ पर खदेड़ा है। यहाँ पर फायरिंग भी हुई है, करीबन 3 पुलिस कर्मियों को गोली लगने और चोट लगने की जो जानकारी है वो भी सामने आ रही है। हालांकि ऑफिशियली स्टेटमेंट अब तक हरियाणा पुलिस का कोई नहीं आया है कि कितने लोगों को चोट लगी है, कितने लोग घायल हुए हैं, कितनी पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट जो है और जो सरकारी वाहन है उन्हें नुकसान पहुंचाया गया है।
जी आनंद, मैं ये भी जानना चाहूंगी आपसे कि ये पूरा मामला मोनू मानेसर के इस वीएचपी रैली में होने की अफवाह से शुरू हुआ था, जिसकी वजह से ये सारा 2 कम्युनिटी के बीच में क्लैशेस हुए हैं। अब मोनू मानेसर जो वांटेड है काउ विजिलेंटिज्म के एक केस में, वो अभी फरार हैं, उनके बारे में क्या जानकारी है और अभी जो स्थिति है, पुलिस वहां पहुंची है या नहीं पहुंची है, लॉ एंड ऑर्डर की क्या जानकारी आप दे सकते हैं? क्योंकि आपके पीछे जो सीन्स हमें दिखाई पड़ रहे हैं वहां पे हम देख सकते हैं कि कुछ पुलिस वाहन तो हैं, कुछ पुलिस कंटिंजेंट वहां पे मौजूद है अभी।
देखिए, बिल्कुल आला पुलिस बल जो है, भारी पुलिस बल जो है वो इलाके में तैनात किया गया है और यहाँ पर देखिए लगातार पुलिस की ब्रीफिंग जो है वो भी सीनियर लीडर्स, यहाँ पर सीनियर अधिकारी जो है पुलिस के, वो यहाँ पर कर रहे हैं। और चूंकि रात होने वाली है तो स्थिति तनावपूर्ण ना हो और लोग एक बार फिर से घरों से ना निकलें, उस सिचुएशन को कंट्रोल करने के लिए इंटरनेट सेवा भी पूरी तरह से बंद कर दी गई है। धारा 144 लगाई गई है इस पूरे इलाके में और कई आसपास के जिलों की फोर्स को जो है वो नूह मेवात बुलाया गया है। पुलिस ने कहा है कि जो भी अगर कानून हाथ में लेगा तो उससे सख्ती से निपटा जाएगा। जिस मंदिर में कुछ लोग फंसे हुए हैं, कुछ मीडिया पर्सन, वहां पर भी भारी पुलिस फोर्स तैनात की गई है और वो सिचुएशन को हैंडल करने की कोशिश करेगी कि पब्लिक थोड़ा शांत हो तो उन्हें वहां से रेस्क्यू कराकर और सुरक्षित स्थान तक पहुंचाया जाए। देखिए, यही रोड है जिससे कि तमाम पुलिस अधिकारी यहां पर पहुंच रहे हैं, मीडिया पर्सन भी इसी रोड से आए। आगे जाके नेशनल हाईवे है जो जयपुर अजमेर जा रहा है। हालांकि वहां पर भी कुछ लोगों ने, शरारती तत्वों ने उत्पात मचाने की कोशिश की थी, लेकिन पुलिस ने उन्हें वहां से खदेड़ा है। तो अभी यहाँ पर देखिए ये चौराहा जो काफी महत्वपूर्ण है क्योंकि यहाँ से 4 रास्ते जाते हैं और तमाम सभी पे जो है वो पूरे रिहायशी कॉलोनियां हैं, रिहायशी घर हैं, तो लोग अपने घरों से ना निकले, इसलिए पुलिस यहाँ पर जो है वो चप्पे चप्पे पे तैनात है। लाउड स्पीकर से पुलिस लगातार यहाँ पर जो है वो लोगों से अपील कर रही है पीस बनाने की और जो स्थानीय विधायक हैं, स्थानीय नेता हैं, वो भी यहाँ पर पहुंचे हुए थे। 8:30 बजे जो कमिश्नर हैं उन्होंने दोनों समुदाय के जो बुद्धिजीवी लोग हैं उन्हें बुलाया है ताकि की जो अमन कमेटी होती है वो शांति व्यवस्था बनाए रखने के लिए लोगों से अपील करे। और तो ये तमाम चीजें जो है ये ग्राउंड जीरो से हम आपको दिखा रहे हैं। अभी हालांकि पत्थरबाजी रुकी हुई है काफी देर से और पुलिस की कोशिश है कि अब फिर से पत्थरबाजी या जो फायरिंग लोग कर रहे थे रह के अपने घरों से छुप के, वो पुलिस पार्टी के ऊपर ना करें।
जी आनंद तिवारी, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर apprising us of the situation that currently is standing in Haryana's New as 2 communities have clashed with one another. Well, that's it from me on Viewpoint. My colleague Toya is up next with Plain Speak. Stay tuned for that.
Good evening. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Toya Singh. On this show, we look at the day's top stories through the lens of just the facts. For our first story, we're looking at comments made by the Chief Minister, Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. Now, these are comments that through the days you may have seen on the channel are causing waves. In an interview with I.N.D.I.A, Adityanath had said, and I'm going to quote here, "Gyanvapi can't be